morning. Today is Tuesday, 13th February 2018. I'm Ebony Brandon. These are this morning's top stories. Nationally, the nation is waiting to see whether Honorable Vincent Byron will address allegations of sexual assaults in his chambers in today's session of the National Assembly. Internationally, mobile phone apps in Brazil are tracking gunfire as violence in Rio spikes. And in sport, the Windies women's squad is getting ready to tour New Zealand. We also have today's weather forecast and Carib update. Now for a look at the news developments in detail. Although the National Assembly is convened today to table and debate the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority Amendment Bill 2018, most persons are waiting to see whether or not Attorney General Honorable Vincent Byron will finally address allegations that there is a dangerous serial sexual predator on the loose in his chambers. Opposition Leader Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas first brought the explosive issue to light during the January session of the National Assembly. A day after his suspension from the National Assembly, Dr. Douglas went on to speculate that he had not been asked to leave over his situation involving the Dominican diplomatic passport, but instead because he had raised the issue of sexual assaults being reported by women and which are claimed to have occurred in the Attorney General's chambers.
This is a very serious matter. Very, very serious matter. In fact, if I were the Attorney General, I would have resigned. Because someone is basically, and I have, put the scandal directly into his chambers. And if up to today he has not yet called for an inquiry in his own chambers, then the country must be asking itself, well, why hasn't the Attorney General carried out an inquiry in his own chambers when the leader of the opposition in the parliament made that statement? This is a very serious matter. And it's very, very unfortunate that our young women in this country would go to the office of a minister of government or the chambers, I should say, of the legal department of the Attorney General and come out charging that she has been sexually violated. And so one is wondering at this stage why nothing is coming forward from the Attorney General chambers, why nothing is coming forward from the police, the DPP, and why nothing is coming forward from the Prime Minister himself.
The matter has since been dismissed by Prime Minister Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris at his press conference early this month. However, the conspicuous absence of the Attorney General, who is normally present at the monthly press conferences, did not go unnoticed. At that time, Prime Minister Harris said he was not in a position to answer the allegations made and added that Attorney General Byron is the person who would be best suited to respond.
I can't speak for the Honorable Attorney General, who is not here. And I would expect the Attorney General, being a man of law, is better suited than I am to make his own defense.
Since then, a female victim of the alleged attacker has called into a local radio program to share her experience and to ask for help in having her attacker brought to justice.
What would it take for the government to act on the accusations that have been brought against him? I was only 18. The same individual that is being accused, it's a similar pattern. I have lost faith in the institution of our society, where we have taken the task to blame the victim instead of seeking justice for that victim. I am at a loss for words. Please, somebody help me understand what would it take, because in my part of the world, this will call for an immediate resignation and an internal investigation.
The nation is now waiting to see if they will finally get answers from the one man everyone seems to think can and should respond to the damning allegations. Meanwhile, in an interesting move, Speaker Honorable Michael Perkins is asking the House to approve the requirement that members of the House submit to the Speaker in writing items to be presented under personal explanations. It was under personal explanations in the January session of Parliament that Dr. Douglas made the allegation of sexual assaults in the Attorney General's chambers. If this should in fact occur, it would mean that only approved personal statements will be allowed in the National Assembly. This would play into the opposition position that under the watch of Speaker Michael Perkins, attempts have been made to prevent and censor their participation in the proceedings of the National Assembly. Prior to today, this has never been strictly enforced. However, Prime Minister Harris presented his statement to the House under the agenda item statements by ministers to the Speaker for pre-approval.
The precise contents of the proposed statement are submitted in advance to the Speaker to ensure that they are appropriate. The member granted the privilege of making such a statement may not therefore depart from the agreed text. End of quote. And I say that to say that clearly moving forward, we may get to a point where I would seek the permission of the House or ask the House to approve that personal explanations are presented to the Speaker in writing for approval prior to a member being allowed to speak on personal explanations. The House of Commons, though, even though we look to them for guidance, our standing orders at Section 85, the very last section of the standing order, also state that the Speaker, or this is my interpretation, does not have the authority to place restrictions on members making presentations. And so for any restriction to be placed on a member, the House will have to approve that restriction. And so that is why when it comes to personal explanation, I would not want to assume the authority and place a restriction on the member making such a statement. And that is why in the future, I would consult with you, honorable members, and we would see how we deal with that matter, whether or not personal explanations should be presented in writing to the Speaker prior to the member being allowed to give such a statement.
And in international developments this morning, crime and violence in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro has spiked to the worst levels in more than a decade, particularly within the past year. Public safety had improved significantly ahead of the World Cup and the Rio Olympics, but it has now become so bad that residents are resorting to unprecedented methods to stay safe. Lucia Newman reports.
A gun battle in a busy Rio de Janeiro thoroughfare. Terrified motorists and pedestrians look for cover, desperate not to become the next victims of stray bullets. Violence is again out of control in this city, where a person is shot every 2 hours in confrontations between rival drug gangs or with police.
The intensity of confrontations in urban areas is new. We're seeing younger criminals with more and better weapons.
Last month alone, there were more than 640 gun battles here in Rio. And not just up on the hills in the favelas or the slums, but right here on the asphalt, as people here like to refer to the main part of the city. These shootouts with assault rifles have become so common that residents are resorting more and more to technology rather than turning to the police. OTT means Where Are the Shootouts? It's a non-profit application that tracks gun battles in real time, based on eyewitnesses, media, and police accounts.
So that's what the initial concept, trying to help the Rio de Janeiro citizens and the foreigners visiting Rio to avoid those areas.
More than 1 million people are using the app, including architect Ana Corsi.
I have started checking the OTT app to see if there is something happening on the roads I will be driving. It's alerted me to make a U-turn when there have been gun battles on my route.
The sharp spike in violence is due in part to Brazil's acute economic crisis. Rio and its police department are now bankrupt. And so, in the absence of effective police protection, residents of the emblematic neighborhood of Santa Teresa are taking extreme measures. Daniela Figueiredo explains that closed-circuit TV cameras were not enough to deter criminals, so the neighbors installed sirens.
I can just do like this. I feel very unsafe every day. When I come home and when I leave, I'm scared.
It's a fear that's well-founded in this city where 90% of murders and assaults go unpunished.
And in sport this morning, the selection panel of Cricket West Indies has announced the West Indies women's squad for the upcoming tour of New Zealand from March 4th through to 25th. The Windies will play 3 one-day internationals and 5 T20 internationals during the tour. This series will be a key part of the team's preparation for the ICC Women's World T20 tournament from November 9th through to 24th. The World T20 will be the biggest event on the calendar this year for women's cricketers around the world, and matches will be played in Guyana, St. Lucia and Antigua. West Indies are the defending champions, having won the tournament in India in 2016. Stephanie Taylor, one of the game's leading all-rounders, will again lead the team on the upcoming tour, while Anisa Mohammed, the experienced off-spinner, is the vice-captain. The players will have a preparation camp in Barbados before traveling to New Zealand. During this period, they will have fitness and training sessions. They will arrive in New Zealand on February 22nd, where they will have another camp before the official start of the series. And joining Captain Stephanie Taylor and Vice-Captain Anisa Mohammed are Marissa Aguilera, Brittany Cooper, Renice Boyce, Shamila Cannell, Deandra Doughton, Affie Fletcher, Kecia Knight, Kishana Knight, Haley Matthews, Chideen Nation, Akira Peters, Tremaine Smart. And with that look at sport this morning, we now turn attention to this morning's weather forecast. Across St. Kitts and Nevis today, conditions will be partly cloudy, becoming occasionally cloudy with a few passing showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a few passing showers also developing. Seas are rough with swells of 2.8 to 3.7 meters or 9 to 12 feet. A warning remains in place for small craft operators and sea bathers against rough seas and strong gusty winds. Winds are east-northeasterly to easterly at 16 to 25 miles per hour, reaching 25 to 28 miles per hour over coastal waters and gusting higher mainly in showers. The sea level pressure is 1,020.1 millibars or 30.10 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:37 a.m. and set today at 12 minutes after 6 in the evening. And with that look at the weather, we've come to the end of this morning's news presentation. Before we go, a recap of this morning's top stories. The nation is waiting to see whether or not Honorable Vincent Burrell will address allegations of sexual assaults in his chambers in today's National Assembly sitting. Internationally, mobile phone apps in Brazil are tracking gunfire as violence in Rio spikes. And in sport, the Windies women's squad is getting ready to tour New Zealand. Thanks so much for tuning into this morning's news presentation. Stay tuned. Up next, Carib Update.